Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming?
In a dramatic and unprecedented move that has sent shockwaves through the British monarchy, King Charles has formally initiated the process to remove his brother's remaining royal titles and served formal notice on October 30th, ordering Andrew to surrender the lease to Royal Lodge.
Yes.
Unbecoming. He was a sex offender.
Yeah.
The sweeping decision marks the culmination of years of scandal and mounting pressure on the palace to take decisive action against the man once known as Prince Andrew, Duke of York. Going forward, he will be known as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, stripping away the princely titles he has held since birth as the second son of Queen Elizabeth II. But the fallout extends beyond Andrew himself. Sarah Ferguson will move out of Royal Lodge after decades of sharing the Windsor residence with ex-husband, marking the end of an era for the divorced couple who had continued living together in the sprawling mansion for more than 2 decades. The palace announcement was stark and unequivocal. His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew, Buckingham Palace confirmed in a statement that reverberated across the globe. The decision effectively ends Andrew's royal status and forces both him and Ferguson to vacate their longtime home. The mansion at the center of the storm. Royal Lodge is no ordinary residence. The site has been home to structures since the 17th century, with the present building dating from the 19th century, and expanded in the 1930s for the then Duke of York, the future King George VI. Its central section consists of 3 stories, with 2-story wings, totaling about 30 rooms including 7 bedrooms. The property holds deep emotional significance for the royal family. Around 1932, the Duke and Duchess of York moved into Royal Lodge with their young family, including then Princess Elizabeth, later Queen Elizabeth II. The future queen spent much of her childhood at the estate, and the grounds contain the miniature cottage Y. Booth and Bach, a gift to Princess Elizabeth as a child from the people of Wales in 1932. After King George VI's death, the Queen Mother continued to use the house as one of her country retreats as a grace and favor residence until her death in 2002. It was at Royal Lodge that the beloved Queen Mother took her final breaths, with Queen Elizabeth II by her side. Following his grandmother's death, Andrew paid £1 million for the property in 2003. And under the terms of the 75-year lease, which was due to expire on June 15, 2078, he was expected to pay for any refurbishment work and the maintenance of the surrounding grounds. He is said to have spent £7.5 million renovating the 30-room Georgian house in Windsor, with new additions, including an indoor swimming pool. Andrew, with his 2 daughters, moved into the house in 2004, having vacated Sunninghill Park. In 2008, his former wife Sarah Ferguson moved into Royal Lodge, again sharing a house with Andrew. Despite their 1996 divorce, the couple maintained an unusually close relationship, continuing to cohabit in the Grand Windsor residence for nearly 2 decades. The Epstein scandal. A friendship that destroyed a prince. The roots of Andrew's downfall trace back to his association with Jeffrey Epstein, the American financier and convicted violator. In March 2011, BBC News reported that the friendship of Andrew with Jeffrey Epstein was producing a steady stream of criticism. But it would take years before the full extent of the scandal would emerge and force the royal family's hand. Andrew said he met Epstein in 1999 through Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's girlfriend and later convicted adult trafficker. What followed was a relationship that would ultimately cost Andrew everything. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell attended a party at Windsor Castle hosted by Queen Elizabeth II to mark Prince Andrew's 40th birthday in 2000, demonstrating just how deeply embedded Epstein had become in Andrew's life. The allegations against Andrew are serious and deeply disturbing. In 2014, Virginia Giuffre alleged that at age 17, she was trafficked by Epstein and forced to have intimate acts with Prince Andrew on 3 occasions. The first occasion allegedly occurred in Maxwell's London townhouse in March 2001. She claimed the other occasions occurred at Epstein's New York mansion and his private Caribbean island. She also repeated a claim that the third encounter was wrong adult acts on Epstein's island with the financier and approximately 8 other girls, who appeared to be under the age of 18 and didn't really speak English. The allegations painted a picture of systematic mistreatment and exploitation, with Andrew allegedly participating in the very behavior that would eventually send Epstein to prison. The disastrous BBC interview. Andrew's attempt to clear his name became one of the most catastrophic public relations disasters in royal history. In November 2019, the BBC's Newsnight arranged an interview between Andrew and Emily Maitlis, in which he publicly recounted his dealings with Epstein.
Oh, in 2010, certainly wasn't a party to celebrate.
The interview was recorded in Buckingham Palace on the 14th of November and broadcast on the 16th of November. The interview was intended to quell criticism and allow Andrew to explain his side of the story. Instead, it became a masterclass in what not to say. Andrew said he had no recollection of ever meeting Giuffre, and added he could not have had any intimate act with her in March 2001 because he was at Pizza Express with his daughter Beatrice that day. Perhaps most damaging was Andrew's apparent lack of empathy for Epstein's victims. Andrew said he did not regret his friendship with Epstein, saying, "The people that I met and the opportunities that I was given to learn, either by him or because of him, were actually very useful." Public reaction was swift and scathing. Hannah Bardell, then the MP for Livingston, called the interview sickening and stated, "Prince Andrew literally has no remorse or regard for the women mistreated and clearly does not see the problem with being pals with Epstein." The Guardian wrote, "It was an exchange that summed up a grotesque mismatch between the Duke of York's language and demeanor, and the gravity of the allegations which continue to surround him." On the 20th of November 2019, a statement from Buckingham Palace announced that Andrew was suspending his public duties for the foreseeable future. The prince, who had once been a fixture at royal events, representing the Queen at home and abroad, was effectively sidelined. Sarah Ferguson's complicated role. Sarah Ferguson's involvement in the Epstein affair adds another troubling dimension to the scandal. In March 2011, Ferguson admitted that Epstein paid £15,000 to her former personal assistant, Johnny O'Sullivan. The payment came at a time when Ferguson was facing significant financial difficulties. In an interview with the Evening Standard, Ferguson said, "I personally, on behalf of myself, deeply regret that Jeffrey Epstein became involved in any way with me. I abhor pedophilia and any type of mistreatment against children and know that this was a gigantic error of judgment on my behalf." But revelations in 2025 showed that Ferguson's relationship with Epstein may have been more complex than initially acknowledged. In 2025, it came out that Ferguson had emailed Epstein after this interview, writing to him, "You have always been a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend to me and my family." The email revealed that even after publicly expressing regret, Ferguson continued to view Epstein as a friend. Throughout the scandal, Ferguson has maintained a loyal stance toward her ex-husband. Speaking to The Times in 2021, Sarah said, "When I'm in the UK, I'm lucky enough to stay at Royal Lodge. I wouldn't call it my home, as that would be presumptuous." During an appearance on Good Morning Britain in 2024, Sarah, 66, dodged the question about the reports between the brothers. She said, "I'm a guest, for a start. I'm a very lucky guest, and a very comfortable guest. I tend not to get involved in brothers' discussions, and I think that's the safest place to be." The final revelations, emails that changed everything. For years, Andrew maintained that he had severed all ties with Epstein after December 2010. This claim became increasingly difficult to sustain as new evidence emerged. In January 2025, Bloomberg News obtained a legal filing showing that Epstein had been in contact with Andrew, at least through email, until February 2011. The filing reportedly showed emails where the two discussed press reports, and Andrew wrote they should keep in close touch and will play some more soon. Earlier this month, British media reported on that exchange, which came after a 2001 photo of him and a young Giuffre at the London townhouse of Epstein's then-girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, was published. The email was sent at a time of heightened media coverage of the Epstein scandal, with Andrew telling Epstein they were in this together and would have to rise above it. The revelation that Andrew had lied about the extent and duration of his relationship with Epstein proved to be the breaking point. It demonstrated a pattern of deception that the palace could no longer ignore or excuse. The legal battle and settlement. In 2021, Virginia Giuffre filed a lawsuit against Andrew, alleging he violated her when she was a teenager. The lawsuit put the royal family in an impossible position. If Andrew fought the case and lost, the damage would be catastrophic. If he settled, it would be seen as an admission of guilt, despite legal disclaimers. Andrew reached an out-of-court settlement with Giuffre in 2022 after she filed a civil suit against him in New York. While he didn't admit wrongdoing, Andrew did acknowledge Giuffre's suffering as a victim of adult trafficking. The settlement was reported to be in the millions, though the exact amount was never disclosed publicly. In January 2022, Queen Elizabeth II removed Andrew's military affiliations and royal patronages and confirmed that he would no longer use the style His Royal Highness in any official capacity. The late Queen, Andrew's mother, was forced to take action against her own son to protect the institution of the monarchy, the posthumous memoir that sealed Andrew's fate. In October 2025, Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, was published, reigniting the scandal with visceral new details. Nobody's Girl detailed 3 alleged intimate encounters with Andrew, who she said acted as if he believed having intimate acts with me was his birthright. The memoir's publication coincided with increased scrutiny of Andrew's finances and his continued residence at Royal Lodge. The Times newspaper reported on October 21st that he had not paid rent on his 30-room mansion, known as Royal Lodge, for 2 decades. It was revealed that he had a lease on the property stipulating a peppercorn rent. In return for carrying out renovations and maintaining the mansion, Andrew was paying a rent of 1 peppercorn each year. The arrangement came under intense criticism from politicians and the public alike, who questioned why a disgraced royal should continue to live in luxury at minimal cost while his association with a convicted violator remained unresolved. King Charles makes his move. For King Charles, the decision to strip his brother of titles and evict him from Royal Lodge was undoubtedly painful but increasingly necessary. Andrew's behavior put King Charles in a difficult position: effectively banish his brother as a royal outcast, or allow the steady drumbeat of negative headlines to risk further reputational damage to the institution. His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence, the palace continued. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. The statement was carefully worded but unambiguous in its message. The palace added that the censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. In other words, whether Andrew accepted the allegations or not was irrelevant. The damage to the monarchy was too severe to allow the status quo to continue. Where will they go? The uncertain future of Andrew and Fergie. Andrew is expected to relocate to a property on the Sandringham estate, with any future accommodation privately funded by the king. Sandringham, the royal family's private estate in Norfolk, has long been used as a retreat away from public scrutiny. Sandringham is expected to keep him out of the public eye and in a form of exile. But Sarah Ferguson will not be joining him there. A palace source said it's unlikely Ferguson will relocate to Sandringham, where Andrew is expected to live after leaving Royal Lodge. Sources close to Ferguson emphasized her determination to forge her own path. Contrary to reports, she has never asked for a property or any provision for herself. The source added, she will continue to forge an independent life. Another insider close to Ferguson echoed similar sentiments, saying she is focused on starting a new chapter on her own terms. She's going to move forward independently. The split marks a significant shift in the couple's living arrangement. Despite divorcing in 1996, Andrew and Ferguson had maintained a remarkably close relationship, essentially functioning as a family unit while living under the same roof at Royal Lodge. Their daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, grew up in the mansion, and both continued to visit regularly with their own families. Ferguson's decision to live separately from Andrew suggests a recognition that her association with him has become untenable. While she has stood by him throughout the scandal, the final stripping of his titles and the eviction from Royal Lodge may have been the catalyst for her to reassess her own position. The financial reality. Andrew's financial situation is precarious. As Andrew currently has no source of income, King Charles will be providing an undisclosed private provision for him. The former Duke of York has not been a full-time working royal since 2019, when he stepped back from duties after backlash from his 2019 Newsnight interview about Epstein. For years, speculation swirled about how Andrew was funding his lavish lifestyle and the expensive upkeep of Royal Lodge. In 2023, reports suggested that King Charles III was to cut Andrew's annual grant, potentially leaving him unable to afford the lodge's running costs. The mansion requires significant maintenance, and its running costs are substantial. Sarah Ferguson, as a private citizen, will need to make her own financial arrangements. She has built a career as an author, particularly of children's books, and has various business ventures. However, the question remains whether these will provide sufficient income to maintain the lifestyle she has grown accustomed to at Royal Lodge. Public and political reaction. The public reaction to King Charles's decision has been largely supportive, with many feeling that action should have been taken sooner. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick told the BBC Radio 4 Today program, "It's about time Prince Andrew took himself off to live in private and make his own way in life. He has disgraced himself. He has embarrassed the royal family time and again. I don't see why the taxpayer, frankly, should continue to foot the bill at all. The public are sick of him." When asked if Andrew should leave Royal Lodge, Jenrick said, "I don't think the taxpayer in any way should be footing the bill for him to live in luxury homes ever again." The sentiment reflects a broader frustration with the royal family's handling of the scandal, and a desire to see meaningful consequences for Andrew's actions. Anti-monarchy groups have been particularly vocal. Activists from the anti-monarchy group Republic staged a protest at the entrance to Windsor Great Park and Royal Lodge, demanding that Andrew face justice and that the royal family be held accountable for harboring him. The broader implications for the monarchy. King Charles's decision to strip Andrew of his titles and evict him from Royal Lodge represents a watershed moment for the British monarchy. It signals a willingness to prioritize the institution over family loyalty, a balance that has often proved difficult for the royals. Andrew, who was born the second youngest child of Queen Elizabeth II in 1960, was once widely described as her favorite son. The transformation from favored prince to royal outcast is complete and irreversible. The man who served in the Falklands War as a helicopter pilot, who represented the Queen at countless engagements, and who was once seen as a charming, if sometimes controversial, member of the family, is now permanently exiled from royal life. For Sarah Ferguson, the situation is equally dramatic. The two remained close after their 1996 divorce, and Ferguson joined the former prince at Royal Lodge 5 years after he moved into the 30-room mansion in 2003. Their unconventional arrangement had become a source of fascination for royal watchers, with many admiring their ability to maintain a family unit despite their divorce. Now that chapter is closing. Ferguson's determination to forge an independent life suggests a recognition that her association with Andrew, while personally meaningful, has become professionally and socially damaging. As a public figure in her own right, with her own career and reputation to consider, the decision to live separately makes pragmatic sense. The historical context. Royal Lodge has witnessed some of the most significant moments in modern British royal history. On the 11th of December 1936, the Duke of Windsor took leave of his family at Royal Lodge following his abdication speech before leaving for overseas and exile. The parallel between that abdication crisis and Andrew's current situation is striking. Both involved a royal choosing personal relationships over duty. Both resulted in exile, and both fundamentally challenged the monarchy's place in British society. The property itself is a testament to the continuity of the royal family. Herbert James Gunn's 1950 painting. Conversation piece at the Royal Lodge. Windsor depicted King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, and their daughters Princesses Elizabeth, later Queen Elizabeth II, and Margaret at Royal Lodge. That idealized image of royal family life stands in stark contrast to the scandal and disgrace that has now forced Andrew's departure. The Epstein legacy. The broader Epstein scandal continues to reverberate. Epstein died by suicide in a New York City jail in 2019 while awaiting trial. His death ensured that many questions about his operation and his high-profile connections would never be fully answered. Ghislaine Maxwell, his longtime associate, was convicted in 2021 and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. Andrew remains one of the most prominent figures associated with Epstein, who has not faced criminal charges. While he settled Giuffre's civil lawsuit, he has never been charged with any crime related to the allegations against him. He continues to deny all wrongdoing. The U.S. government holds the key to the larger scope of the Jeffrey Epstein case, advocates have said. Prince Andrew may be just one of those people that are implicated. And I do believe if he's willing to come forward now and cooperate, it will lead to the larger scope of what really gone on here because there's so many people that need to be held accountable. What happens to Royal Lodge? With Andrew's eviction, questions arise about the future of Royal Lodge itself. Buckingham Palace announced in October 2025 that he will have to leave the house, which is expected to happen in early 2026. The property is owned by the Crown Estate, and decisions about its future use will ultimately rest with King Charles and his advisors. Given the property's historical significance and the late Queen Elizabeth II's deep connection to it, any decision about its future will be carefully considered. Some have speculated that it might be offered to another member of the royal family, possibly the Prince and Princess of Wales, though they have recently settled into Adelaide Cottage and have plans to move to Forest Lodge. Others have suggested that the property might be open to the public, allowing visitors to experience the home where the young Princess Elizabeth spent so much of her childhood. This would generate revenue for the Crown Estate while preserving the property's historical legacy. The personal toll. Beyond the public drama and political implications, the human cost of this scandal is significant. Andrew and Ferguson's two daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, have watched their father's reputation crumble, and their childhood home become the subject of international controversy. Both princesses have maintained low profiles regarding the scandal, presumably to protect their own families and careers. For Andrew himself, the transformation from Prince to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor represents a complete loss of identity. Born into royalty, raised with all the privileges and expectations that entails, he must now navigate life as a private citizen under the shadow of scandal. At 66 years old, with no independent source of income and his reputation in tatters, the future looks bleak. Sarah Ferguson faces her own challenges. At 66, she must establish a truly independent life for perhaps the first time in decades. While she has maintained various business ventures and continues her charitable work, the loss of the security and social position that came with her association with Royal Lodge and Andrew will be significant. The final word. Buckingham Palace's statement concluded, "Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of mistreatments." This acknowledgement of the victims represents a significant shift in the royal family's approach to the scandal. For years, the focus seemed to be on protecting Andrew and managing the public relations crisis. Now, under King Charles's leadership, the priority has shifted to accountability and recognizing the suffering of those who were harmed. It is a necessary, if belated, recognition of what should have always been the central concern: justice for the victims. The eviction of Andrew from Royal Lodge and the effective banishment of both him and Sarah Ferguson from royal life marks the end of a long and sordid chapter in the history of the British monarchy. It demonstrates that even princes are not above accountability, and that the survival of the institution depends on its ability to adapt to modern expectations of justice and transparency. As Andrew packs his belongings and prepares to leave the mansion that has been his home for more than 2 decades, and as Sarah Ferguson contemplates her independent future, one truth remains clear. The consequences of associating with Jeffrey Epstein have finally caught up with them. The golden cage of royal privilege has been opened, and they are being cast out, not into freedom, but into a very public and very permanent exile. The story of Royal Lodge, once a symbol of royal family life and continuity, has become a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing status over morality, of protecting reputation over truth, and of maintaining connections that should have been severed long ago. King Charles's decisive action comes years too late for many, but it represents a necessary reckoning for a monarchy trying to survive in the 21st century. For the residents of Royal Lodge, the corgis that once belonged to Queen Elizabeth II, the staff who have maintained the property, and the memories embedded in every room, change is coming. And for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess who was but is no more, the future is uncertain, diminished, and forever shadowed by the choices they made and the company they kept. That's a wrap, fam. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Leave a comment and let us know what you think. Is King Charles taking it too far by pushing Prince Andrew and his wife out of the royal estates? Or are they getting what they deserve? Are they being unfairly treated, or did their actions warrant such consequences? We're curious to hear your thoughts and opinions on this royal drama. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more juicy royal news and updates.